Hello and welcome to Grandma's Corner of Stories. Today I'll be sharing with you tales of the 1800s to 1860s. Shall we begin? Once upon a time, in the year 1800, Thomas Jefferson was elected as the third president of the United States. The election was called his Revolution. It was also known as the first peaceful transfer of power. John Adams, a Federalist, gave up his office to Thomas Jefferson, a Democratic Republican. Thomas Jefferson then, in 1803, purchased the Louisiana Territory. This was known as the Louisiana Purchase from Napoleon. This doubled the size of America, and it was out of the president's power. But Thomas Jefferson did consider a constitution amendment first. After the purchase, Thomas Jefferson sent his secretary, Mary Lovett Lewis, to explore this region. Before sending him on his journey, Lewis went through a 6-week training course in Philadelphia. On May 21st, 1804, Lewis was ready, with co-captain William Clark and about 50 others to leave. They left from St. Louis, Missouri, and ventured to the Pacific, while hoping to find the Northwest. The journey was dangerous, carried them, and one with a lot of rivers surrounding it, such as mountains of salt. On their venture, they encountered savages 16, who would serve as their guide, and this made it possible for them to travel. They did not find the Northwest Passage they so heavily seized. After the Lewis and Clark expedition and their return in 1806, Lewis was made governor of the Louisiana Purchase region. Clark lived happily ever after, while Lewis sadly killed himself. Jefferson, during this time, had faced his problems himself. There were rumors going around that he fathered a child of Sally Hemings, his slave. Another rumor lay within the duel of his vice president Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton. It was July 11th, 1804. Aaron Burr had challenged Alexander Hamilton to a duel. They were two gentlemen following the standard codes of duels in New Jersey. Hamilton had shot first, missing Aaron Burr. Aaron Burr had shot Hamilton in the chest on his first try, being a good shot. This consumed Aaron Burr with much scandal afterward, and it was the death of his political career. Turmoil at home was bad, but overseas tensions were stirring. With the impressment of American ships by the British, it was becoming more common, and Jefferson had to deal with this. It carried on to Madison's presidency. James Madison. It was during the presidency of James Madison, and he was facing an issue. Should he go to war with Britain or not? The war hawks such as John C. Calhoun and Henry Clay were in favor of war, but America was not ready for war. They were, however, running out of options. They had tried to stop the trade with Britain and France with the Non-Intercourse Act of 1809, which replaced the Embargo Act of 1807. But then their world status was no good, so it had little effect on these European powers. In 1812, Congress chose to go to war, and this began the War of 1812. In the war, the Executive Mansion got burned down. The war ended with the Treaty of Ghent, signed December 24th, 1814. Even so, on January 5th, 1815, General Andrew Jackson had had a victory down in New Orleans. The ending of the war rallied a sense of nationalism. During this time, the national anthem was created by Francis Scott Key. This war also saw the end of the Federalist Party at the Hartford Convention. The end of the Federalists was ensured with the election of the Democrat James Monroe, Madison's handpicked successor. James Monroe. Monroe, with the end of the war, sought to seek peace with Britain, alongside his Secretary of State, John Quincy Adams. This was started with the Rush-Bagot Treaty, which demilitarized the Great Lakes. Monroe also worked on his foreign policy, with the issuing of the Monroe Doctrine in 1823, which stated that unless the American had interests were involved in the world, unless American interests were involved, the United States would abstain from European wars. Second, the American continents were not object for future colonization by the European powers. And last, the U.S. would construe any attempt on European colonization in the New World as an unfriendly act. Adams went on to win the election of 1824, Although Jackson was the most popular, Henry Clay became the Secretary of State in hopes to gain the presidency, some had thought. That election had all Democratic candidates: Andrew Jackson and Martin Van Buren. Jackson succeeded in winning the election of 1828. He was the first president known by a nickname, Old Hickory, because of the cane that he carried. The election was different. He went out to the people, and more people were allowed to vote. A problem that arose early in Jackson's issue was a high protective tariff, actually while Adams was still in office, who only served one term. Jackson's Vice President John C. Calhoun, in response, issued a notification based off the earlier Kentucky and Virginia resolutions. As a native Southerner, which were hurt by the tariff, this created friction between the two, but Jackson had lowered the tariff in the end. Though this did not end the tension between the two, they had many more clashes. But Calhoun was not the only one who disliked Jackson. The others that disliked him had formed the Whig Party. In 1832, Jackson started another war, this one against the bank, by vetoing the renewal of the bank's charters asked by Nicholas Biddle. This would allow the bank to expire, but Jackson was not happy with that, and he would kill it slowly by depositing federal funds into wildcat banks. Jackson opposed paper money and the National Bank. Therefore, he only allowed the circulation of gold and silver pieces, which had a great boom in the economy, but ended in the Panic of 1837 under Martin Van Buren. In 1830, Jackson issued the Indian Removal Act to Indian Territory in Oklahoma. This was fought in the cases of the Cherokee Nation versus Georgia in 1831 and Worcester versus Georgia in 1832, which essentially nullified it, but Jackson neglected John Marshall's decision, which led to the Trail of Tears. This forced the removal of the Native Americans to Indian Territory in Oklahoma. In 1838, General Winfield Scott and 7,000 soldiers, ordered by Martin Van Buren, muscled out 1,200 miles to the Indian Territory. This journey was filled with sickness and disease, such as whooping cough, typhus, dysentery, cholera, and starvation. Along the way, more than 5,000 Cherokee died as a result. Many Americans throughout this time were moving to Texas. Mexicans welcomed this with a few stipulations, but when Americans started to disobey these, tension was beginning to break out. It was February 23rd, 1836, the Alamo, a 13-day siege that ultimately ended when the Mexican forces overran the mission. Jim Bowie and David Crockett, fighting the Alamo, died. The Alamo ended on March 6th. Following this, there was an incident that occurred, and this was the Goliad Massacre on March 27th, where Mexicans killed 342 Texans. April 1836, the Republic of Texas gained its independence. At the Battle of San Jacinto, led by Sam Houston, by retreating to the San Jacinto River and attacking the Mexican army, led by Jose Lopez de Santa Anna. Meanwhile, during 1844, President James K. Polk set out for the border agreement with Britain on the Oregon Territory of 5440, with his campaign 5440 or Fight. It was agreed upon that they would settle at the 49th parallel. Polk also sought to re-annex Texas with the spreading of the ideology of manifest destiny. There was a border dispute in Texas, where they thought that the border was at the Rio Grande on the American side, and on April 25th, 1846, while Zachary Taylor was at this disputed area, war broke out, the Mexican-American War. The war came to a close on February 2nd, 1848, with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, after General Winfield Scott forced a surrender in Mexico City. In the treaty, Mexico lost 1/3 of its former territory. This newly acquired territory would lead to further problems in America over slavery. This age saw a lot of reforms, such as the war on alcohol, temperance. This movement was generally headed by women, and was mostly a part of the Protestant church. It gave way to a belief such as a happier home would be settled with prohibition. There was reform in penitentiaries and asylums headed by Dorothea Dix, in hopes to uphold an ideal society of the age, which was also seen in the utopian communities of the time. Horace Mann sought to reform schools. He lengthened the school year to train laborers for the urban industrial jobs. Going to school was not very common, especially in rural households where children were generally the prime source of labor. Women's suffrage became public, especially with presenting the declarations of sentiment in modeled after the Declaration of Independence at Seneca Falls, New York. Some main figures included Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, Alice Paul, and the Runke sisters, as well as Lucretia Mott. This age also saw a second Great Awakening, with Charles G. Finney, and the father of modern revivalism, with his fiery revivals. New groups and other sects of Christianity were also rising, such as Mormonism, founded by Joseph Smith, which was the first religion centered in America, as well as the Shakers, headed by Mother Ann Lee. Abolitionist sentiments during this time were increasing. People like William Lloyd Garrison, with his newspaper, The Liberators, sought for immediate abolition of slavery. Others like Harriet Beecher Stowe sought, with her novel Uncle Tom's Cabin in 1852, to expose the evils of slavery, which was not really known by the North anymore. Following the Mexican-American War, there was the issue of what to do with the territory that they had won against Mexico. David William had issued the William Proviso, which would solve this problem. It stated that all this new territory would not be under slavery but free. This proved to be a problem for his Democratic Party. The final solution was presented by the great compromiser Henry Clay, with the Compromise of 1850. This stated that California would be a free state, New Mexico and Utah would choose have popular sovereignty. Texas would give up some land and receive $10 million to pay off its debt to Mexico. The slave trade would be abolished in D.C., and for the South, there would be a stricter fugitive slave law, which delayed war but was controversial in itself. Another controversial issue was the Dred Scott case, where Dred Scott was suing for his freedom due to his master's recent death, and his being in a free state at the time. The case was thrown out by Roger B. Taney because Scott was property and not able to have a trial. Henry Clay's student, Stephen A. Douglas, worked to end the conflict with the states Nebraska and Kansas in his Kansas-Nebraska Act, where one would be presumed to be a slave state and the other free. Kansas had the choice of popular remedy, which would prove to be a challenge. Kansas was split. Topeka wanted to be a free state, and Lecompton were pro-slavery. In 1855, the two had constitutions, but President Franklin Pierce only recognized Lecompton's. In response, there was the massacre at Potawatomi Creek, 1856. Kansas during this time had been referred to as Bleeding Kansas, quote, coined by Horace Greeley, because of the violence during this time. John Brown was a radical abolitionist believed to have been at Potawatomi Creek during the massacre, but it was never proven, although his sons were there. But, however, John Brown, in 1859, raided a U.S. arsenal at Harper's Ferry on October 16th, where it failed and John Brown was jailed. It was a slavery, but it was generally only him and his sons. Tension was building in the Union, and its separation was finalized with the election of 1860, when Lincoln won the presidency. As a result of Lincoln's winning, southern states began to succeed, starting with South Carolina. This where the first shots were shot at Fort Sumter, thus starting the Civil War. The two opposing sides, the Confederacy and the Union. The end.